Well, thanks everyone. I think that if the we I didn't see any specific uh, Q&A uh, for uh, for this last presentation, and so we can proceed on to our commentary and discussion. The uh, Anna, are you on? See if we can find her here in the list of our participants. Oh, there she is.
Yes, I am joining now as a panelist.
Okay, good to see you. And
Good
I
to
think
see you.
everyone should know that Anna is appearing from Buenos Aires.
Yes.
And she normally is in Dundee in Scotland. And so she maybe she's got the good sense really to leave Dundee in the wintertime and go down to Buenos Aires.
Yes. Yes, I am in research leave. That's a good place to be. Thank you so
Good.
much.
So Anna, the do you have any some general thoughts that you might be able to add to our mix here?
Yes, thank you so much, John, for the invitation to join this summit and this panel. It was fantastic to hear all the presentations. And I was thinking what impressive accumulative knowledge and practice about this. And I was also thinking how we have moved on collectively from this idea of, well, what is sustainability in the context of the mining sector? So to understanding how in practice what this entails. So as we know, sustainability entails working within the limits of ecosystems, so in ecological terms, within the limits of ecosystems, and with communities and understanding their cultural perspectives. And I see the whole summit has given us uh, very important insights into how that happens, into how we have moved in terms of the metrics and the role of good neighbor agreements. I saw that very interesting sessions as well on the role of good neighbor agreements in setting more in specifying the metrics that are needed for working with communities. I thought it was very interesting. And so at the end of the day, it is about how we take decisions in mining projects, considering ecosystems and hydrogeological systems. And I thought that that was so it's so important, and so how we have moved as well in terms of science-based decisions. I thought it was very interesting. It was very interesting to start the whole summit with a presentation as well, and with a panel with a mining historian. And you are so keen as myself on mine law history. I thought it was very interesting his remarks about how traditionally mining laws have not considered science, or considered science as it was thought at that time, the concept in all mining laws about rational use and about conserving the mine, the resources themselves, so there was a sort of old concept of stewardship at that time, but how that knowledge of science has evolved over time, and how we need to consider how science informs decisions today. And I saw that also raises important questions in terms of law, because there were very interesting points in the last session on uncertainty. So because as we know, as we use science and modeling, have different outcomes, and because we are dealing with nature, and nature that is in a state of change as well, that is exacerbated by climate change. So we are working in context of uncertainty, and so I think that raises also interesting questions for law. So law is uncomfortable in a way with uncertainty, or deals with uncertainty, tries to secure, that aims at securing at establishing certainty and predictability of relations. So, but how we work in this context and how we use these tools, I thought was very interesting. I also thought that another important point, it was, I said that was so much the role of science in decisions, the role of cooperation, so how we need to work in cooperative ways with companies, with local governments, with indigenous groups and local communities. How I saw the presentation from Ginger and Kyle on the experience, on the comparative experience on impact and benefit agreements in Canada. Very interesting as well how we can learn lessons as well on on uh, on how they have moved forward from the concept of stakeholders to partnership agreements, or truly partnerships, through partnerships. And what they remarked, I thought, in terms of decision-making processes, it is also they emphasize the role of indigenous groups in leading impact assessments as having a very good outcome at the end. And so it is how we take decisions today, incorporating science, working together, working with diversity, with incorporating indigenous people, and leading impact assessments from the beginning. I thought it was very interesting conversation at the end as well. So how to use science as well from the beginning to avoid damage, to proactively avoid damage. So how we learn collectively and to do that, and the role of universities in supporting all these endeavors. So I think that it is. I thought it was fascinating, and I also thought that was a lot to discuss, and I was also interested. So now a lot of the conversation was in the U.S. context. We heard about the comparative law experience. I was also thinking whether the panel would expand, or they would join. So also to think if they had to think of there are countries that are starting the journey in the mining sector now. So how to draft laws, how to start from the beginning. So and knowing so the complexity of the sector today. So a fascinating summit, John. So what is your take?
Well, thank you, Anna. We had an interesting comment here that asked the question, how early in the mine life cycle should community consultation begin? Particularly in the United States, where informed prior consent is not required, and or the later on during the during the development stage. And I think that one of the big problems, of course, you see is when you start sharing information, there are certain restrictions on, what information can be released uh, based on a lot of the filings with the stock exchanges. Um, and I think early stage of these projects too is that very little, and it's difficult to say much. Uh, the you have any thoughts as to where that should begin? And any of our other participants, feel free to jump in on this one too. Um,
Yeah, so I think it is there is a lot of discussion at what stage depends in each legal system as well. So if it is not mandated, so it is I think it is good practice um, to take to start as early as possible to release to share information about the projects. So it is not the process, the formal process of consultation, but share information about the projects. I think we know very well there are so many cases so that the concessions, so for example, in Latin America, in the context of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, there are few cases landmark cases that have because that have been brought because communities, indigenous communities, had not been involved in the process of in the process of granting rights. So of course, the technicality depends probably. Sometimes it is related to the environmental impact assessment because it is the only instrument in some cases that it is the one that is an aspect of consultation. But I think it is as early as possible so to share information. And so it is as there is a pre-feasibility study, it is important to start a consultation. So when there is a project, but I think that even before there is a project, when there is exploration going on, it is important to inform as well. There are cases so that as well that have brought conflict because there was not information even at that stage of the project. So I see that there are people living, so I leave the space for others to intervene.
Yes. One of the obviously transparency throughout the process seems to be a key, and I think that that was emphasized by a number of panelists. And I suppose that the one of the difficulties with transparency, sometimes your information is changing. And so I think that the credibility of the speakers tend to be compromised based on changes of information. And I really liked the comment that was made that the communities are always going to be there. And but that the personnel from the mine seems to change. And that's why I really like the idea of the of some form of alignment with the university comes into play, just because you're going to have a longer lived communicator coming that as opposed to uh, the people from the mine.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. Universities are there, and so I think it is a, I think they are they have a crucial role in supporting this whole process in terms of information, generation of research, capacity building, training, education. Um, so the role of universities close to the sites, I think that is crucial.
I suppose when we look around at our people that have been consulting on behalf of the company, I see Ty. How long have you been at the university? I see he's muted here. I don't see if he can come back on or not. But the fact of the matter is that most of the people that are at the universities and developing this information, and for that matter, it often uh, uh, makes it more credible when the experts can come in and say, well, this is what we know now, and it's not something that we knew before. Okay, well, do we have any other thoughts or comments from any of the panelists? Well, hearing none, I thank you all for participating in the summit. I think that this is certainly a very valuable topic, a very current topic, particularly in Arizona, where we've looked at two of the active mine developments, and I appreciate the participation of all of our panelists. And thank you, Anna, from coming in all the way from Argentina.
Thank you so much, John, and very congratulations for this summit.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you all, and have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Bye.